What about federal land? It says that 28% of all land in the United States is owned by the government.
Yeah, this is one of the ideas that I kind of shake my head and laugh at. Only 7% of that 28% that you cited is actually buildable. Most of that land is in the middle of nowhere.
Hello, everybody. I'm here with Seamus. Today, we're going to talk about Trump's housing plan and how we're going to make houses more affordable. Tell me a little bit about it, Seamus. What are we going to see in the future for housing affordability?
I think all consumers are out there looking around saying, will housing get cheaper, right? There are some big items that the current administration is at least speaking to in terms of how it wants to increase affordability. Those big three are reducing regulation, utilizing federal land, and then interest rates. So of those three, which one would you like to jump in and discuss?
Let's start with the first one. Let's start with regulation.
Yeah, so stats that have come out and been cited by the administration is about 25% of the cost of building a new single-family home actually goes towards regulation, right? Permitting, zoning, kind of jumping through that red tape. And it's also the time that it takes for a project. Most developers plan to break ground 1 to 2 years in the future, knowing they have to go through the regulation process on the way to actually breaking ground and getting homes into the hands of consumers.
You know, another thing I read is that the Department of Housing and Urban Development had a policy that required new homes to meet a certain level of energy efficiency, bringing that up to 31,000. So dropping that could certainly bring down prices as well, right?
Yeah, and that specific one's got a lot of airtime because it is that balance between, do we care about the environment or do we care about our pocketbook, right? And how previous HUD have added policies that maybe hurt the pocketbook, but hopefully help the environment. I think in general, these large builders, every single one of those little regulations really add up, and that cost is just passed on to the consumer. And so that is one of the many regulations that they're hoping to start to unravel to open things up.
What about federal land? It says that 28% of all land in the United States is owned by the government. A lot of this is for national parks and conservation areas and, areas with mineral rights. Obviously, opening these up is going to bring supply up and bring some prices down potentially.
Yeah, this is one of the ideas that I kind of shake my head and laugh at, only because only 7% of that 28% that you cited is actually buildable. Most of that land is in the middle of nowhere, right? We live in Colorado. We have an opportunity to go utilize some of that land in parks, but you can't build homes in towns there necessarily. So I think that could have some impact if the land that is buildable and is next to desirable places like cities was leased or even sold off for the purpose of development. That could absolutely create some fertile grounds for new development. But I'm highly skeptical as to the impact of that. I think a much better thing for individuals to be thinking about is looking at their local county and local government and see how things are being zoning, right? See what land is maybe up for decisioning on whether it's kept as open space or it turns into development. I think locally, individuals' voices can be heard probably a lot more effectively than hoping a bunch of federal land gets turned over to developers in the near future.
Housing value is only one piece of the pie when we're talking about housing prices and affordability. However, even if all these bring down housing prices, we've also got interest rates, and those have been relatively high over the years. What do you think about getting those lowered to making houses more affordable?
Yeah, there's the two elements, right? There's the actual list price of a home, which you only actually pay for that home if you're buying with cash. Right? If you're like the vast majority of us, you're actually taking a loan out to get that home. And so what actually hits your pocket, your monthly payments, interest rate has the biggest impact. So one of the exercises I went through to really try to understand the difference is I looked at the average price of a home in the United States, $402,000 for a single family, right? I looked at the interest rate in 2021, averaged about 3% on your conventional 30-year fixed. If you take that interest rate, and then compare it to today's, which I was just looking it up today, 6.8%, right, is what I'd get on that 30-year. 6.8% on a $400,000 loan is just about $2,900 a month, right? If we go back in time, we jump in our time machine, we buy that same property, that same $400,000 loan in 2021 at a 3% interest, that is 29% cheaper per month, right? We're around $2,100. That's an incredible difference in terms of the price to you and me to actually afford that home. So where I'm the most bullish actually as to where we could see affordability changes is less around the actual list price of houses, but the current administration is wildly incentivized to bring down interest rates because they have some debt on the books too. We hear a lot about the debt that the US government has. They're trying to refinance that debt. They want the interest rates lower for that purpose. And that also results in bringing interest rates down for you and me so that our mortgage is actually a lot more affordable on a monthly basis. And so if I had to bet on one of these levers being really effective in changing the affordability of homes, I would definitely bet on interest rates.
So interest rates feels like a quicker, easier way to get these prices down and make it more affordable for us landlords and us home buyers to get a new home. How long do you think it'll take to kind of see the benefits of a lot of these policies and the rollout?
I don't think any of the three that we mentioned today are immediate at all, unfortunately, right? The ones that are the first two that we spoke about, the removal of regulation, the use of federal land, those require people to go out and build the houses, right? So they are going to take a long time. They're not going to hit right away. The Fed has talked about making potential interest rate cuts in the second half of this year. So we still have quite a bit of time, right? You're talking 6 months plus before we may see interest rates that would bring down the mortgages. So right now, unfortunately, I don't think there's anything in the next 3 to 6 months that's going to drastically change the affordability. If you're in a position where you've been looking to purchase a house, right now you got to continue to save up for that property. And it's probably not the right time to make a move, whether you're going to be a first-time home buyer or whether you're in an existing home and have one of those sweet 30-year fixed interest rates back from the 2021. You're going to be paying a lot more if you move into a new property.
Hey, I think a lot of us are in that boat. So what you're saying is to maybe just wait until some of these policies roll out, and then it could be really affordable for you to get an investment property or just a first-time home.
Yes, and I've talked to a lot of landlords actually that have needed to move their primary, but what they've done is they've actually kept their property. It's called golden handcuffs, right? They have that great interest rate, so they've actually kept that as a rental property, and it cash flows a lot better because the interest is a lot lower. They've then moved and taken on a higher mortgage, but they've used the cash flow of that previous primary to actually help pay the difference in interest that they have on their existing on their new primary. So that's been a great way for some individuals to both get into the landlording business, right? But also to take full advantage of that really low interest rate that they have from before 2022.
Well, thanks, Seamus, for explaining all that. And I'm feeling optimistic about the future for housing prices. Let us know how you feel in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and thank you very much.